listen, I got to say, just right out of the gate, I'm really excited to watch this. I really love what Petrify brought. I am a big, big fan of blue-black. It's been a pet child of mine. This is not something that we've seen in the previous tournaments. And on the desk, some people were saying some of the cards are actively bad. That may be the case, but there's a lot of reach here. And if this deck struggles...
They're bad in other decks,
yeah.
But in this deck, I mean, they fit perfectly. They're meant to close out the game once you kind of lose that gas in the mid game, and I think they're going to work out pretty fine for Petrify. Obviously, if you're playing at turn 1, you get that extra value as well.
Yeah, so looking at this, right, we've got a Phantom Assassin thankfully dodging the Bristleback. That is a nightmare to line up against Bristleback early on.
For a price.
And we have an opening of a Mercenary Exiles. I like this.
And this is not good for Petrify. We see lane 1 already being, kind of lost. Kana's probably going to try and go into lane 1, but again, facing an Exiles and Bristleback's going to be tough, I think. And lane 2, your Ogre's already dying. So not the best flop, I think, for Petrify. His lane 3, though, is looking pretty good. There is a duel, though, in hand for, well, it's going to be a black hero, so I think he will be fine.
Yeah, the one thing that Petrify has going for him is I think his deck is far more suited for going for the Ancient. So if he does take a commanding lead early in that third lane, Ancient might have potential there. MyGoodMate also 2 Time of Triumphs in hand, which will matter later, but right now, not really helping him out.
And there are versions of this blue-black aggro that do, the win condition is mainly the Ancient, more than having 2 towers. But in this case, with Petrify's deck, he's not really running the Oaths. He's not running too many Nevermore, so I think his game plan is more just 2 fast tower kills with aggro, but not really the Ancient so much. It's still going to be a viable game plan for sure. If the lane's left uncontested, MyGoodMate should definitely, watch out for that. But I think it's not going to be the main, situation to win here for Petrify.
Yeah, one thing that is potentially possible as we think about like lines that Petrify can take, if they win that third lane and then they go to pivot, all of this reach might be enough, even if it's a contested lane or a lane that they've been losing, might be enough to just push through. Those lightning strikes deal an awful lot of damage when grouped together.
And we see lane 1 pretty much given up by Petrify early. Kana not being played, there's a big tell already. The gank was there in hand to try and kill the Legion, but the duel stopped that. So initiative did matter even early on for MyGoodMate here, but still taking control of this lane, going to have a creep spawning here with Kana's ability every single turn. So pretty fair to say this lane will be Petrify's going forward. And now lane 3 is a big thing. A lot of damage done already, but we see the Axe coming in as well. So now it's a 2v1. It's going to be tough for Sorla.
Yeah, and with the Dimensional Portal coming down this turn, there's going to be a lot of creeps that damage each other but don't die. That could set up a really, really big prey on the weak the next turn. This is looking much, much better for Petrify as compared to the flop. And that's one of those things you want to mention, right? Artifact, a lot of times people will have a bad flop, a bad opening turn, and they think that, things are out of control, but that's just not really the case.
And Tyler Estate with initiative, a big play here, going from 4 to 3 mana is a big, big step. In Artifact in general, 4 mana is kind of that pillar where every deck has a ton of 4 mana cards. When you play that, bring it down to 3, it really kind of screws over your opponent in the early game, and we see that there. No plays being made by MyGoodMate, and 2 Time of Triumphs in hand, so a very top-heavy hand. Not going to be great against an aggro deck because you want to defend yourself early on, and you don't really have the tools to, at least not in hand yet.
Yeah, MyGoodMate's looking for some help with this draw because the playable cards that he does have are limited to black heroes, right? We're going to have Tinker come in, but the Phantom Assassin there, they couldn't play a card last turn because, again, of the Tyler Estate censor, so they're running out of playable cards with those Time of Triumphs just stuck in their hand.
And Tinker here will be used to play a card from lane 1, use that mana. He has a 5 mana, March of the Machines in hand, can probably push it over to lane 3 maybe just to get that extra 2 damage as well. So it'll be 6 damage over 3 turns with the March of the Machines, and Trebuchet still doing damage. 10 health. That's how you take down that tower, because now with 2 creeps, Phantom Assassin and Axe, it's hard to actually push damage to the tower, but with improvements, it can be done. And lane 2, we'll see Prey on the Weak probably again. We'll see just Control and Lightning Strike as well with Ogre. So
yeah, there is all of the reach that Petrify could want at this point to potentially finish off that lane 3. Kana doing work in lane 2, and as we said before, Prey on the Weak is potentially going to generate a lot of pressure. Could follow it up with a Disciple the following turn. Things are looking much better for Petrify after that suboptimal opening.
And this is where if you had a more creep-oriented aggro deck without the improvements, it would be hard to push through that, but we see the gank here onto Ogre Magi. Kana's dying as well this turn. Blue play is going to be not incontested for the turns after this, or the turn after that until they respawn back in. So Good play there from MyGoodMate to try and stop. I think he knows the third lane is in trouble already.
Yeah.
It's not going to be saved. He has no smash either in this deck, so he can't really stop the improvements. But lane 2 is still, in some ways, defensible. Although Prey on the Weak will make things very hard.
Put in an awful lot of dogs in this lane. This game is certainly following the traditional Artifact formula, right? Both players pretty handily winning one lane, and now we're going to see this heavily contested middle lane as both players are trying to fight for a second tower.
And a lot of units will survive, or a few. 4 units with Nevermore next turn from Phantom Assassin could be. And there it is.
Yep, there it is. Now, one thing that might be a consideration here is the gank, because at this point now the Sorla is going to be not doing any work here, right? So you could, in theory, consider playing gank there, maybe trying to suicide, but the Disciple will get a lot of damage on that Sorla there as well. One of the reasons you want to suicide is because it allows you to redeploy the hero in a couple of turns.
I think he knows that lane 2, he's going to be able to defend it with blue heroes for the most part, but this lane, he has to be careful about the damage, just to try and keep it at a safe level. Just until this gets pushed in, at least, to the 6 damage that's left, which is going to be 2 more turns. So,
yeah, that's very important. One thing that you have to remember in Artifact is just because you take down a tower there, it doesn't mean your opponent can't turn around and take one back. So while Petrify is going to secure that third lane, that doesn't mean that MyGoodMate can't pressure there as well. And with 2 heroes there and some creeps, that might actually be part of the game plan. And
the gank with initiative here in lane 1. Lane 2, unfortunately, the creeps were there for MyGoodMate, so that's very good for him to try and stop some extra damage there, where Petrify, wants to try. That's the lane he wants to take now. It's just going to be his main objective, basically. The Prey on the Weak is a great draw for next turn. There's a lot of damage, which I think there definitely will be.
Yeah, so as we kind of talk about potentially dead cards in players' hands, MyGoodMate's had those Time of Triumphs since the beginning, and now Petrify is picking up the Annihilations, which are not the kind of cards he's looking for, I think, right now, because he's looking to close out the game, and those are defensive tools, so not the best hand.
He can stall out lane 1 if he's scared of, or even lane 3, but he'll probably play a blue hero lane 1, I think. It's not, it's not going to be taken this turn, I think, even with a weapon equipped here onto Bristleback. There's no real plays. Again, we see the Time of Triumphs. The duel is now an option.
Yeah, it is certainly possible that is something that they could do there, right? Towers, 1 health. We've seen it a number of times, right? 1 health is enough to stall, reset with an Annihilation. And, all right, so the tower does not go down. That is a line of play. You could drop Ogre Magi there the following round.
Now damage going into this tower. 8 more damage, or down to 18 now. Lightning Strike. We'll have to do a double multicast to get the kill next turn, which I think we won't be seeing, but who knows. And now, important here. This 2 damage means that this tower is going to go down instantly. Nothing else will matter as soon as it goes before the action phase. Trebuchets and March of the Machines will activate and it'll be dead. There's no heal in red-black for your tower.
But we do see a demagicking Maul.
It can take down 1 improvement, but not both. So,
but not both.
And there's still a charge left on March of the Machines, so this tower is going down. There's nothing that MyGoodMate can do about this. This is the difficult thing psychologically to face trebuchets. You can't do anything about it if you don't have the answer, so it just feels bad that a 1 mana improvement is going to take down your lane. And this is Petrify's game plan coming together perfectly. He did early damage, and then he closes it out with the improvements, so yeah, good variation on aggro, and I think it's definitely going to work out for him here.
And it looks like with the Blink Dagger here, MyGoodMate's actually going to abandon this lane. Again, we talked about earlier that it might have been the game plan to instead try to take lane 1 and lane 3 and just stall lane 2. But MyGoodMate is saying, hey, I want to fight for this middle lane. This is where it's going to be won or lost, one way or the other. All right, so we're seeing some purchases made by Petrify. A couple of Phase Boots and Blink Dagger, lots of mobility. The Phase Boots pickups are great because this means that when this Tinker comes down in the middle lane, if it's an unfavorable position, can potentially reposition.
Now the blue hero in lane 1 could have been Annihilation to stop. It's at 6 health. He has initiative, could stop it there. Kills his own Phantom Assassin though, so 2-for-1 trade, not great maybe. Also could be an Ignite play, but instead going to go all in on lane 2. There's no wide clear from MyGoodMate, and he's only at mana turn 7, so Time of Triumph isn't online yet. So I think we'll have to see, but I think this is looking very much to be in Petrify's favor.
Yeah, I like this play by Petrify. He's the kind of person that likes to play to win and not necessarily play to not lose, if you will. And while the Annihilation would have been safe here, it would have also meant giving up initiative going into the middle lane.
We see unsupervised artillery to put some extra damage in lane 2. We have the Prey on the Weak as well. You get a lot of dogs, and again, there is no wide clear for MyGoodMate. So there's a Berserker's Call. I guess that's kind of wide. It's a mid-range clear.
Yeah. But
Only 3
nothing
units.
that's going to deal with this ultra-wide board, and it's a turn before Time of Triumph. So if the game does end here, those double Time of Triumphs are just going to have been, a detriment, if you will. I'm sure MyGoodMate would have rather had usable cards.
And the tower's still very healthy for Petrify. The Martian Machines is huge here. Does kill a lot of the prey on the weaks, but still there's a lot of damage units here. Going to be damage to be pushed. There's the active as well on Tinker.
I love the look on their faces.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
The
So
weak must be stumped out.
Prey on the Weak coming to answer back. And again, this is where the phase boots would have been nice if Tinker was still alive, right? Try to force through that 7 damage. But we also see some arrows not really going in the favor of Petrify here.
Now we can see Berserker's Call. Going to clear a lot of those dogs. Open up some damage for MyGoodMate. Keep his board a little bit wider. And also stop the unsupervised artillery active from going off this turn, which is 4 damage, could be huge. If 6 damage is taken this turn, it goes down to 12, and then 1 lightning strike cast stops it. But in this case, gonna stay at 16. So
Yeah. All right. Throws out the lightning strike.
that's it. No multicast. Petrify, what are you doing, my man?
Get better at being Ogre Magi. All right, so the Magicking Maul does come down here, and it's looking like that will take care of the unsupervised artillery. That's what happens if you leave it unsupervised. Somebody knocks it down with a big hammer.
See the phase boots here probably on both heroes. Get some extra damage onto the tower.
Yeah.
Or onto Tinker, actually. Get the kill there.
Right, so again, if you're new to Artifact, you don't understand when you swap positions, if the arrow for the unit you're swapping with was in a different direction, you also take on that arrow. So Ogre's gonna deal damage to Tinker here, but it does clear the hero out, make some space for potentially the next round.
And next round, I think we might just see Annihilation. This is the point in the game where Petrify loses control. When you're playing this aggro version, you want to win quick. If you don't, every turn that passes after that, you're just losing your possibility of a win, because a control deck or a more mid-range oriented deck is going to overpower you over more mana. We have Time of Triumph coming in, whereas there is no 8 mana play for Petrify. His mana top is 6 mana.
Yeah, Petrify certainly hoping to draw more reach, right? More lightning strikes or sources of direct damage this following round, because Time of Triumph is coming online.
Ku has nothing to kill here, and the Ancient could go down, but it's a long way away. There's no Oath in the deck. There's no Nevermore in the deck either.
Right, Blink Dagger, technically an option here. I'm not necessarily a fan with only 2 health though. But if Petrify says, hey, I'm not getting any deploys this next round, maybe, just having the body is worth it, but does decline like I would have anticipated. Not the greatest Blink Dagger there. All right, so Petrify gets the creeps in the middle lane because of the Canna, right? And unfortunately, MyGoodMate is getting no creep help there.
Now, Annihilation could come down, could reset if we see a Time of Triumph, for example, if it gets scary for Petrify, but lane 1 is obviously lost. Lane 3 is still very healthy to Petrify. He can, obviously, stave off a lot of damage there, or it'll take a long time. I think the Ancient kill won't really be a thing for MyGoodMate either. Yeah,
the Annihilation is a legitimate consideration here, and the reason for that is with 3 black heroes coming down in the next round, and only Tinker showing for MyGoodMate, that could represent a lot of damage, especially with one of them being Sorla. So you could Annihilate here, and then when they come back, you've got Coup de Grace available to you, and you've also got a low amount of health on that tower, right? So it only takes Sorla to whack that thing 1 time to take it down.
Petrify's hand is just very limited. 2 Annihilations, which is very situational, and a lot of black cards without any black heroes alive this turn, so he can't do too much. He has to kind of react to what MyGoodMate does in this case, but there are duels in hand. Of course, blue heroes are quite squishy, so... And Time of Triumph as well. Blink Dagger here as well to open up black plays in lane 2, so... All of a sudden, MyGoodMate takes control of the game, and Petrify is looking to be in a tiny bit of trouble. Only 10 HP on the tower, though, so it's not a long way away.
All right, so here we are going to see whether or not we are going to get annihilated. A little bit of a reset here.
I think there's no rush. I guess if you want to stop Time of Triumph, because then he has to cast it the turn when they come back after. It's not just already there with the siege damage, so...
It's a good thing you gave this to me.
I like this.
The
Fair
other
play.
one wouldn't know how to use it.
Potentially baiting that second time.
You can save some damage on that. There's one more tick on the Martian Machines as well. You see a duel instead, so it stops that damage from being taken there. Annihilation could still come down. There are 2 blue heroes, fortunately for Petrify.
All right, so yep, there is the Annihilation. I was going to say, you almost have to take it here because you do fear either a second duel or something else that could take it out. But I do like that Annihilation. Again, with the reset, you're going to have a 3-to-1 hero advantage, and you might even catch some creeps that help you out, and you only need Sorla to connect once.
And now MyGoodMate has only black heroes in lane 2. He has the Blink Dagger on Phantom Assassin and the Tinker respawn as well. He needs to find a Blink Dagger for the Bristleback, potentially, to be able to have, you know, another Time of Triumph, and there's no Annihilation possibility here, so all of a sudden, if there's a Blink Dagger in hand for MyGoodMate, it's looking a lot better. If not, he's very limited. He only has black plays. The Phantom Assassin does have the Time of Triumph on her body already, so that will still be a lot of siege damage and cleave damage, but it still could be sticky here. Again, only 10 HP on the tower. Some good creep spawns, some, you know, Soul Ladder, some Coup de Grace, opening a space for Sorla, for example, could be the win here for Petrify.
So the interesting thing here is that unless they draw something, MyGoodMate only has red cards in hand, right? So if they pick up a duel, something like that, and they blink Bristleback over, they can open up some plays. As is right now, though. All right, so we are seeing some draws go in favor. All right.
A Gloaty Vandal, a good way of pushing damage as well. And
yes.
You know, the board is blocked, but that's 4 extra damage right there. Second time at Triumph, see the blink from Phantom Assassin, all of a sudden 8 siege damage. That's scary.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage. And again, there's another Blink Dagger in hand, so you have to assume Bristle's going to go over as well. Now the interesting thing is we actually might see a draw here.
That might be hard with these two big boys coming into that lane. All of a sudden it's 3v3. The creeps are there for
the creeps are there. I certainly think MyGoodMate has the damage to get this tower down. But again, only Sorla has to whack this tower. And with Coup de Grace in hand, if there's some clever baiting, right? If there's some clever use of mana and then you Coup de Grace the Tinker in front, it could legitimately result in a draw. And we see some thought going into this, right? We know that it's going to come down to this.
The disarm is there from Tinker as well. It stops any kind of combat damage, which means that, like we see here, the siege damage went down, only 16 damage being taken at this point. The coup is there still to kill the Phantom Assassin that's doing
I really, really like this disarm because now this makes it so MyGoodMate has to play something else to contest this tower. This turn. And then again, that has the potential to open up a Coup de Grace on the Tinker so that Sorla can push through.
Of course, disarm is not a stun. It only stops combat damage, so red cards could still be played, for example, in this lane.
Yep.
They're two very different variables in this case. A Gloaty Vandal pushes some extra damage. All of a sudden, lethal is there for MyGoodMate. He has a 20 damage onto the tower.
So here, I kind of like the potential of maybe just playing Assault Ladders and baiting out a little more mana use before committing to the coup. Equipping items, again, also very reasonable play.
The coup is not available anymore for MyGoodMate. Now, if you play Assault Ladders and Tyler's State is played after that, that all of a sudden ruins your game plan. You can't play the coup yourself and you might just lose the game. So
right, but so the drawback here though is that unless you get MyGoodMate to use the mana, right, the Tyler State is a blocker that can go in front of Sorla either way. So you have to do something here to try to bait it. Unfortunately, the pressure is on Petrify to do so. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and take this, and this I think unfortunately seals it in favor of MyGoodMate for Petrify by committing to the Vandal.
Only 5 mana available. You have a Soul Ladder that can't do really too much more. Tyler's State pushes 2 extra damage. There's only a Soul Ladders in hand, which in this case don't do anything. Again, a situational card, great when you're ahead, pretty bad when you're behind because you're not hitting tower. The board on your opponent's side is much wider than yours. And it's just a classic example of aggro losing gas in the mid game and control, or a more mid-range version. This isn't full control taking over, and there's a forfeit from Petrify. And MyGoodMate 1-0 up. And now this deck is banned from MyGoodMate. This is Conquest format. You win with the deck, it's out of the picture, and now he brings a second deck, which is Red Green Ramp, the most popular deck in this tournament.
Yeah. So the way that went, I mean, it's just like you said, right? Classic example of an aggressive deck starting out strong, kind of running out of steam. Now, we said before that Petrify's version does have a little bit more reach, ways to deal direct damage. Wasn't really finding them at the end. Again, the Annihilation was a great attempt at trying to reset and get that through, but part of me wonders, you know, if instead of the defensive tools, we had some more lightning strikes, things like that, it might have went the other way.
Missing some of that, you know. The lane 3 was a great example of the improvements working perfectly. They did what they needed to do, but lane 2 just lost control. Blue heroes died a lot, and just not the best hand, I think, for Petrify.
No, not at all. And MyGoodMate also a little bit of a rough hand there in the beginning, but stalled, right? Long enough for the Time of Triumphs to come into effect, matter, and it worked out well for him.
I'm dying here.
You're dying? Are you dying as much as Petrify was?
I'm actually dying. Ambulance, please.
All right, well, it does look like we're getting ready to go into Game 2. Again, much like you said, it's going to be the red-green deck played by MyGoodMate. It is Conquest format. Once you win with a deck, you may not reuse it. Petrify playing the blue-black deck. Much better opening hand this time for Petrify. Not a great flop with Sorla running into Bristleback, but much better opening hand. Powerful 4-costed cards, Dimensional Portal in hand, Tyler Estate Censor, a Gloaty Vandal. Things are looking up for Petrify this time around.
I'm back from the graveyard.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you could join us. And he's gone again. I hope you guys like the sound of my voice because it's going to be me and then lots of coughing and choking.
I'm actually back now. It's fine. Red-green. We're going to see it finally. We're going to be seeing this deck a lot. Thanks to the format of the tournament, we're going to see it not that much because once you get a win, it's kind of out of contention. So it's not going to be like the 2-0 every time in every group. But
speaking of red-green, you know what? I had an opportunity to message Petrify before this began, and he said specifically when I was asking about his lineups and the blue-black list, because I'm a big fan of blue-black, what impacted your lineup? He said, I didn't want to play red-green because red-green mirrors are the most skill-less matches in the game. So he's getting a skilled matchup now by not playing the mirror.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's a high-roller deck. We can try and soften it up, but that is a deck that is...
Yeah, I mean, if you draw a ramp and a finisher, you're in a great spot, and if you don't draw a ramp, you're not.
It has some skill to it, but in the mirror, where everything is pretty much the same, except for some heroes sometimes, it's just whoever draws the ramp first wins most of the time. So I understand Petrify's conflict in trying to bring it, even though it seems to be one of the better performing decks in the qualifiers, for example, but still. In this case, I respect the decision to bring 2 aggro decks, try and race the clock. We'll see if it works out, though.
So there in that round, we did see Dimensional Portal come down in that middle lane, and I really like that. Obviously, Canna in the first lane means creeps are going to be going there. So using, again, powerful cards like Dimensional Portal in that middle lane to make sure you have a presence, fight for the board, strong move. And with these potential placements, it's looking like Petrify is fully abandoning the right lane, and that makes sense. Bristleback's already got a buff. The 2 melee creeps are going there to help out as well. You might as well avoid it and just commit to these other 2.
It's a good start. Kana finally in the lane she belongs in, which is the first lane for Petrify. We see a Soul Ladder. We see a great hand for Petrify, very mid-oriented with Gloaty Vandals, for example. The duel not so great, obviously.
Yeah, unfortunately, Kana not sticking around for long. Will be back. That's the beauty of being a hero in Artifact. You never fully gone, much like my castmate here, Panda. Sometimes he takes a trip to the fountain, he coughs a little bit, but he always comes back.
I redeploy.
He redeploys.
I'm the coughing Ricks. And we see Drow as well in this deck with Gust. A card that was phased out after the nerf. Not many players have brought it. MyGoodMate is one of them. Most players favoring, for example, Lycan and Tree instead, just to have the early board presence against like Mono Blue. But Mono Blue, in the end, not too popular. Only 9 players have brought that deck for this tournament.
Yeah, I imagine Drow will eventually come back, slightly in popularity. Fell out of favor because of the nerf to Gust. It's far more powerful to make your opponent not be able to play any cards at all than it is to make them potentially not play cards at all. But Silence is still a very powerful effect, and I have not seen as many Jasper Daggers in deck lists as I think people originally anticipated, and so it wouldn't shock me if Drow is one of those heroes that kind of ebbs and flows with the meta. I'm excited to see it.
And talking about hands, I mean, we see MyGoodMate's hand. Very top-heavy. He has the Vesture in hand, though, just got a lot better. Let me fix what I was about to say. But he has a lot of top-heavy cards, Time of Triumphs, 2 Emissaries, 2 Time of Triumphs, but no ramp. So kind of filling him there. If Petrify can race this down quick enough, then he can just win the game before it even comes online because the ramp just isn't there to become kind of the aggro mid-range version instead of red-green. And we have some great cards in hand for Petrify. Yeah,
Petrify, again, hand much better this time around, everything they could want. And just like you said, MyGoodMate, no ramp, instead picking up cards like that Spot Weakness, which, does cycle, but not at all helpful in this matchup. And MyGoodMate has that Vesture. Where do you think that Vesture is going to go?
Let's look at all the lanes. We can decide. I guess it's this one. It's a quick decision, Charmer.
Quick decision, right? Going on the Drow. All right, so apparently it wants to redeploy Drow wherever it wants. Drow makes sense because you want to take use of the passive, right? So making sure that if Drow does die, comes back, always buff your entire board, and not just this board, the entire thing. That's a great target for it.
And that damage block there is huge because it isn't now going to be in a Gloaty Vandal range, which is going to be massive for the next turn, for example.
All right, so this makes me happy. Anytime Sorla can hit a tower, I am a happy person. Sorla just happens to be my favorite hero, so I'm biased.
We could see March of the Machines, but again, the armor is there for everything. Every instant of damage will be, debuffed by that Vesture unless that hero is killed next turn. We could see a coup de grace, for example, onto the Drow.
Yeah, this actually is one of those matchups where the Trebuchet might matter, right? Because of the piercing damage. March of the Machines gets negated by Vesture, but Trebuchet, not so much.
And it's something that, when you read Trebuchet, you don't really read the piercing damage thing until the situation, and that's when MyGoodMate gets, very triggered when he says, why does this have piercing? Who decided this? Why can't it just be 2 damage by itself?
Now, the interesting thing about Vesture is it really makes Lightning Strike less effective. Lightning Strike still will get some damage through, but it makes it far more of a tickle and less of a strike.
It works on Bolt as well, for example, so a lot of people just think about combat damage, but it works on pretty much everything that affects the tower.
All right, Canna going back in that first lane, much like we expected. MyGoodMate getting some help with 2 melee creeps over there as well. And the way this is playing out, it's looking like the first lane is going to be the decider here.
And the thing with Vesture is that, Dimensional Portal, Prey on the Weak, all those units you can go as wide as you want will not do anything if Vesture's online, because they're under that 3 damage threshold.
Vesture is the exact item that Petrify did not want to run into here. Even if you reset with something like Annihilation, the hero that has it is coming right back, continuing to slow you down. As a deck that wants to be aggressive, wants to go wide with cards like Dimensional Portal, that Vesture is a nightmare.
And now mana has been spent, you can coup, but it's going to open up just very little damage, 3 damage here, and then it comes back next turn again. A Gloaty Vandal will do 1 damage if it's played, so again, not enough next turn to just kill it with initiative, because Drow will come back into that lane, like you said, has rapid redeployment, so...
Yeah, this is going to be the longest time it takes to potentially kill a tower, maybe ever in WePlay history, when it have 10 or less health, right? Like, this thing's had 10 or less health for a couple of rounds now.
I like this. It guarantees the kill on the tower. Not anymore. Never mind. Spoke too soon.
Spoke a little too soon.
And now that tower survives on 8 HP for now.
MyGoodMate is doing a fantastic job of stalling here. Not 1, 2 towers under 10 health, but still in a pretty decent position to protect both of them. Nice thing about the Centaurs is they have a massive 8 health, right? They're going to stall there. Wow, I'm actually very surprised by this Drow placement.
It makes sense. I mean, now that lane looks super scary. You have to have a Blink Dagger onto a blue hero, which you don't have on Petrify's hand to Annihilate, for example. You could have kind of a lucky coup de grace if your hero lines up and it's right with the green hero. You can do that and push damage that way, but it's a lot tougher now.
All right, so Petrify commanding position to take it this time, so now they kind of have to decide, do I want to commit more resources here? Do I want to just blink over? Does take the blink.
We're at 8 mana, so all of a sudden, all those top-heavy cards that were stuck in MyGoodMate's hand early on are now very much active and ready to go. Berserker's Call, probably the best option here, though.
All right, so
I'm ready.
See some items coming down, but eventually we're going to pass it over here. Now, the interesting thing to note is that Coup de Grace does only target heroes, and Phantom Assassin did not land in front of a hero, so we cannot use that to open up damage to the tower, at least in terms of freeing up Phantom Assassin here.
You won't feel a thing.
There's a coup. We'll come back again next turn, though, so not doing too much, but opens up some extra damage because the Vesture is gone, and now it's down to 2 HP.
Yeah, 2 HP. A Trebuchet would get it done. If he top decks a Trebuchet and can play it from the first lane, does not matter if Vesture is there at all.
Charmer, don't jinx it.
Don't jinx it? I'm not jinxing it. I want it to happen. I want a game in a big tournament to be decided by Trebuchet.
And this is the point where control has to, or mid-range has to step down the foot and say, no, 1 HP on tower 1, 2 HP on lane 2. Can he stop it?
I mean, let me put it this way. If MyGoodMate manages to stall here, he earns it, right? Earns it 100%. This is going to be quite the uphill battle.
Now, Vesture's here. Initiative is here for Petrify. If he draws in a Gloaty Vandal.
We're waiting on the draw because it's... Oh, there's the Trebuchet!
Now he still has to do damage
I
here.
should have known you'd be too stupid to run, X.
Oh, all right. So, does have the laser available on Tinker, though it doesn't actually force damage through, but it could still disarm something. Does have coup de grace that could clear Axe. Right? If we get some mana baited out, and then there's the time. All right. So if coup de grace comes down on Axe, and then you trebuchet in the well, you got to trebuchet first. You don't want to discard it by accident. That would be a nightmare. So you likely play the trebuchet over to your middle lane.
That's something that Petrify might not think about. We'll see. That could be fatal.
Yeah, that would be a there we go. Petrify's a veteran here. Not going to make that mistake. But that would be very unfortunate.
That would be graveyard, unfortunately. I mean, he would be just dead.
All right. Petrify knows that actually Petrify knows that stars. Yes.
Who's next?
Interesting.
He stops the lethal on this tower. Only 12 HP coming in.
Just out of curiosity, why do you think that he chose that instead of the axe?
I think he messed up. Looking at his reaction, he definitely messed up.
Yes, you needed the Tinker damage to push through the Vesture. So
the kill's there, and now the thing here is that either this game's going to be a draw next turn, or he draws a pre-combat phase kill, which is called Lightning Strike in this case. There's 2 blue heroes coming in.
Yeah.
There's a Berserker's Call, though, in hand.
The interesting thing here is, with the board the way that it was, if he played Trebuchet in that first lane, then it would be winning this following round, right?
I mean, there was a Blink Dagger in hand, but you could Trebuchet first lane, Blink Dagger comes on, you keep initiative, you play Q in the second lane, you win either way.
Right.
So,
bit of an interesting turn here.
So now it's all about Lightning Strike or Annihilation. That could be the option here as well. If he doesn't find, I like this play more. Well,
yeah, I like this play because you know that you're either going to draw Lightning Strike and win, or not, if not, you have to reset with Annihilation, so there's no point in putting both of your blue heroes there.
Although Berserker's Call will seal the deal here for MyGoodMate. There's initiative in his favor as well, so...
Yep, the placement, unfortunately, betrayed Petrify. It was the right call, the wrong result.
And no Lightning Strike anyway, so there's Berserker's Call. 30 damage coming in here, and there's an Insta Concede from Petrify. And I think that was a blunder.
Yeah, there was a little bit, there was a little bit that could have been done still for MyGoodMate because of the stars align, right? We needed the Tinker to try to push damage.
To 3 mana, which I think there wasn't a creep available for 3 mana in the hand.
No, there was 4 with the Druid. So yeah, missing the coup on Axe and instead taking it with the Bristle, bit of a misstep.
Now, it could have been because of siege damage coming to the tower from Time of Triumph. Possibly, I think it still wasn't enough. It wasn't lethal anyway, so I think Axe would have been fine. You would have still won the game. But yeah, definitely a blunder by Petrify, and that's just going to be a 2-0 win